Hello everybody and welcome back inside the box for another episode of Gunpla Kitbash with me, Kukamatsu. In this episode we'll be prepping the parts for paint. So, let's jump right in. Okay, so last week I was talking about pushing through to the end. This week we're really into that now because kind of a boring process coming up here. And this is a process that I have been guilty of skipping in the past or doing very quickly in the past. And this time I'm sort of determined to really give it 100%. And that is preparing the parts for painting. There are a lot of parts, especially on an older kit like this, that have nub marks that are quite obvious and need to be fixed. There are the parts that I did a quick snip with the nippers and I need to clean up. There are quite a few of those parts around. And then there's just general stuff where I've done some filling and I need to just double check that it's a good surface. So not the most exciting video this week, but it is part of the process. In times past, I would often do this step sort of on the same day as the painting video, and it ended up being a really long day. I had to do all this stuff, then do the painting, and then also the editing I do on the same day. So it makes it would make for a really long day. And you know, to be honest, I want to enjoy this process even as I make these videos. So in this series, I have actually been doing a little bit less each week, enjoying the process more, and then presenting that to y'all. Hopefully you've been still interested in all the episodes that I've been making and all the steps that we're going through. Definitely, I think this stage in the build, we're down to the core group of y'all out there who are interested in watching the whole process, and that's okay. Like the view count goes down throughout the series anyway, and that's kind of to be expected. And I feel like when we get to this point, it really is those of you out there who are interested in the whole process and also just in seeing the whole build through. You know, the kind of YouTube videos that I like to watch are the ones that go through a whole long series, and you get to follow through the progress and then you know, sort of participate in the accomplishment at the end of having gone through all that. And hopefully some of you out there appreciate that and enjoy that part and will enjoy this kind of video. I will kind of talk about other things as I go through this because a lot of it is quite tedious and boring. I'm not going to show you everything, or I'm going to show you sort of what I'm dealing with here, and then talk about some other things as we go. So hopefully it'll be a somewhat interesting video in any case. I did want to show you this part here. This is the other side of this piece here. What I often do is I do the one on video, and then if I have to duplicate it, often I'll just turn off the video and do the other side, or I'll do it as a time lapse or whatever. On this one, I did that, and I just started trimming away, and I was, you know, enjoying it and trying to match and stuff like that. And then when I looked at them together, I realized I'd started cutting in the wrong side. This piece is actually, when you're looking at it from the bottom, it's fairly not symmetrical, but it's similar enough that you can kind of get it mixed up if you're not careful. And that's what I did, and I started cutting through that piece, and so ended up having to repair that completely and then cut out the correct side afterwards. So that kind of stuff does happen, but you know, you just sort of deal with it as it comes up. The nice thing about being able to do these kind of repairs is that you can solve that kind of problem. I haven't totally destroyed the part to a point of being unusable. I can fix it again and move on and make it work. So I think we're going to start with the basics, and I am actually going to try and look at every one of these parts and just see if there's anything that needs repairing on each one. Sort of do an inspection pass on each one and do the repairs. A lot of this stuff can be accomplished, I think, with fairly simple sand. Sometimes I get a little bit aggressive with the nipper when I initially cut it, and I leave a little bit of a groove in there, and that might need a little bit of filling if I do have a groove left over. And I mean, I think I've talked about this before. It's really a matter of personal taste about how far you want to go with doing this kind of reparation. If you're doing a lot of weathering, this stuff is maybe less critical because you won't really see it as much. It'll be hidden by the weathering work. If you're doing this kind of work for competition, maybe you want to be a bit more careful about that. And if you're doing a glossy finish, you want to be super conscious of any imperfections in the surface. One of the side benefits that I didn't expect from starting this YouTube channel and also posting this stuff on Instagram is that it really pushes me to go a little bit farther than I might naturally go on my own if I'm just making it myself to put on my shelf, and I know it's not going to really be seen. I might be a little bit easier on myself about this kind of stuff, but when I'm showing it and sharing it, I do feel more motivated to do this extra little step, even though it's a bit tedious. You know, every project is going to have a tedious aspect to it that you have to push through. With Gunpla kits, a lot of times for me that step is even just the beginning. Removing the parts and denubbing them is kind of a tedious job. There are a lot of parts to these kits, and it's a bit meditative, but it does get a little bit boring. You have to push through that, but it's easy to push through that one. It's at the beginning, and the next stage is building. So it's not too hard to find the motivation to do that, I don't think. I because I don't like that step, I remove all the parts from the trees straight away and do the denubbing all at once, and then put everything in bags, and then when I go to do the build, I don't have to worry about that stuff. All I'm focusing on is enjoying the building aspect. You can see I'm going using the usual like finer and finer grits of sanding block here, just to get this surface looking nice and smooth. It's looking quite good already. When I first started building Gunpla kits, I was doing it on my own, and it's super satisfying and amazing. I love doing it, but I did after a while feel like just sharing it on Facebook to family and that kind of stuff. It wasn't the connection to the community that I was looking for. They appreciated it, the work that I'd done, but didn't really know what was involved in that kind of stuff. And the nice thing about being part of a community that does this kind of stuff is that the people can really appreciate the work that you've put into it, because they've done it themselves or they've seen it done. That was why I first started on Instagram, showing my stuff on Instagram, and really enjoyed the community aspect that comes through that. Seeing what other people are doing, talking to people about what they're up to, what they would like to do. I've kind of been a maker all my life. If I had to describe myself in one word, I guess it would be maker. I a long time ago was I was in art school and needed a summer job, and I ended up being a puppeteer and puppet builder as a summer job, and that ended up turning into a 10-year thing. And from there went on to be working in film. I really enjoyed the mechanical aspect of that sort of puppet building, so got into animatronics, and the complexity level was a lot higher, and got into film that way. But after working doing that for a while, I also started getting interested in the 3D modeling thing that has been developing quite a lot over the last 10 years or whatever, and started doing that kind of work. And the result of that was that I just didn't get to use my hands as much. It was the creative aspect of 3D modeling, I find, triggers the same thing in my brain as making stuff, but it doesn't change the fact that you're sitting in front of a computer all day long and not really making anything per se, even though my 3D modeling career started off more in the 3D printing side of things before going to the VFX side of things. So at that stage, it was still being made, it was still being printed, you could see it in real life, but I wasn't making it myself. I was still just doing the computer work on those kind of projects. So the reason I got sort of back into model making as an adult is just to have something that requires using your hands and making something, so I could kind of get that feeling back, not just be on the computer all the time. And that was how I discovered Gunpla kits. I kind of grew up doing car and plane and tank kits, so boat, ships and stuff. I started off doing that when I first got back into it, but then decided I wanted something more complex to build, and sort of discovered Gunpla kits that way. And sort of once I started, I was totally hooked. I did a couple of master grade kits, and then went straight to perfect grade. Built, I think, 5 perfect grades in a row. It was actually during the last one that I started doing some Instagram posting, and then have gotten more and more into the kit bashing, not just custom paint and stuff like that, but also the kit bashing aspect, and somehow turned into a YouTube channel. Actually, I had zero intention of ever starting a YouTube channel for this kind of stuff, but a few people asked me for videos of the stuff that I was doing on Instagram, and I just really thought, that's going to take all the fun out of it if I try to do that. And also, I'm not really a talkative person. I'm a bit shy and all that kind of stuff. So I just couldn't imagine the idea of talking while I worked. But enough people asked me to do it that I started thinking about it seriously. And my initial sort of test was just while I was building on my bench on my own stuff that was not being videoed, I just started describing it as I went along to see if, that I could see if I could even imagine doing that kind of thing, giving sort of a running commentary of what I'm working on while I'm doing it. And actually that turned out to be okay. So from there I just set up some cameras and I had some webcams, set them up and did a whole series of filming it with no intention of ever putting it on YouTube, just to see what would be involved, if I could even manage the editing and the filming and the lighting and all that kind of stuff. And that series will never see the light of day. It was just a test series to see what it was like, but it sort of convinced me that I could do it without it being, didn't want it to be something that would stop me from building, because it does take more energy and setup to do it on film. That test kind of worked out as well, and so I thought, okay, let's give this a go. I don't have any intentions or desire to be like, I don't know, a guru or influencer or whatever else, that kind of stuff on, some people do, sort of aim to be on YouTube. Really, I just wanted to share what I was doing, share what I was learning, and show sort of the reality of this kind of work to people, so that kind of see that it is work, and there are a lot of steps in it to bring it to completion. And if you're struggling with it, you shouldn't feel bad, because it's difficult, and everybody kind of struggles with it to some degree at some point. And from a selfish perspective, my reasoning for doing the YouTube channel was just to connect to other people who are interested in this kind of stuff and be part of the community, not just be doing it on my own in isolation. And that's been really wonderful, that aspect of it, because I do feel like there are people who are like-minded, who are interested in this kind of stuff, whether you're actually doing it and learning it along with me, or you're an expert, or you're just beginning, or whatever, or you're just watching because, one of the things I like about YouTube is that you can sort of participate in somebody's process that you might like to be doing on your own, but maybe you don't have the time or the situation in your life where you can do that. You can sort of do it vicariously through somebody else if it's a kind of a series project like this. You can enjoy it without having to find the circumstances that will allow you to do it yourself. I think that's pretty cool. Basically, I created a channel the type of channel that I would like to see on YouTube, I guess you'd say. There are some out there like that, I guess, but a lot of the videos are sort of a little bit more slick, a little bit more, I don't know, geared towards a wider audience that are just interested in seeing like a quick summary of the process, and then a sort of dramatic reveal of it at the end, which, I don't have anything against that. I think those people are making incredible videos. I know how much work they take to do that kind of thing. It's a lot of work, but they really do get the viewership as well from putting that kind of work into that approach. I do find that when I watch those videos, I tend to skip all the dramatic parts. Definitely skip the part where they're just like cutting stuff off of the trees, and I find that boring enough in real life. I don't need to watch it on YouTube. But that's why I never really show the initial build of the kit on my channel. I'm really interested in the customization aspect, and so I don't see any point in filming that part. And that's the part that I usually skip over on other people's videos, and skip to either when they get to the part where they're doing some customization, or to the part where they are just revealing the final thing, and see what they've done with it. It's never been my intention to, make money from this channel or whatever else either. Although, I mean, let's be honest, I would love to make money and be able to do this full time. But you know, I enjoy my job, and at this point in my life, I'm not trying to make this my full-time gig. I just want to be part of the community. Just been working my way through the really obvious nub marks on these pieces, because they really stand out on these older kits. But now I'm into some of the pieces that I've modified, and I just need to clean up. And I'm going to do that a little bit with the knife as well as the sanding blocks. Every time I said in a previous video, oh, I'll clean that up later. Now this is later. This is the time to do all this stuff. You might want to do this as you go if you don't want to do it as a final step. I sometimes do that as well, just make sure that I'm on top of it, but in this case just gonna do it all at the end, all at once. I think a lot of people use competitions as a motivation to sort of push themselves to go farther with their work as well. I've never been super interested in doing competitions, or at least not, you know, a lot of competitions are like, you need to use this kind of kit, and you need to, you know, certain restrictions or whatever that they have based on the criteria that they've set up. I guess that's why that aspect has never appealed to me. I had intended to enter something in the GBWC 2020, and was working on something for that, but of course that was cancelled because of COVID. I don't know what the status of the one this year is, if they're doing it or not, but I could imagine at some point entering that competition as well. There's a lot of freedom to do kind of whatever you want. Not whatever you want, I guess there are certain restrictions. It needs to be a Bandai kit, it needs to be sort of Gunpla focused, and that sort of thing, but that's what I'm doing anyway, so it kind of works out that I can just sort of do what I want, and it fits into the competition rather than the other way around. But I don't have any particular desire to be winning awards or anything like that. My main motivation for that one was because you get a trip to Japan. That sounded pretty good. If you're a finalist, like many of you out there who are into Gunpla kits. It's not true of everybody, but a lot of people are also into, you know, the anime and Japanese culture in general, and just that kind of stuff goes along with this hobby to some degree for some people. I'm not like super interested in the anime. I like the anime, but it's not it's not the reason that I got into this stuff. It was more of a model making thing than a you know, fan of the anime thing for me. So I enjoy the anime, but it's not my primary focus. I do want to thank you if you made it to this point in the video and you're still watching. That probably means you're part of the core group here, and I appreciate that. I mean, there's a certain number of people who are regularly commenting, and I know that they are, you know, interested in part of that group. But there's also a bunch out there who probably just watch every week and don't comment, and you're just as much as a part of that core group as anybody else. I appreciate you being here and going through this whole thing with me. And if you are watching, I'll let you in a little bit of my my future plans for the next project. I am thinking about, none of this is for certain, so don't hold me to it. Things change, but I am thinking about making this part of a bigger diorama that this would just be one piece of, but we will see. So the next project might be the next piece of that diorama, which means that if GBWC does go forward this year, I could have a potential entry into that, and that would be pretty cool. But like I say, nothing is decided or certain. We will see how that goes. A certain number of these ones where I've actually done some reshaping work are going to need to be painted gray so that I can really see the imperfections in the surface. So what I'm going to do now is collect all of those parts from this group and just paint them all gray, and then come back and see how they look. Okay, here we go. I have painted a bunch of parts with some gray. A lot of these parts look pretty good. Actually, I have this work light that I like to use for inspecting this kind of stuff. And yeah, they look, overall, the simple ones look pretty good. The more complex ones definitely have a little bit of surface work to do. Just tiny little divots in there that need to be filled, and surface imperfections. But overall, they're looking pretty good. definitely some on there as well. So I'll go through these and do each one in turn. And the benefit of that, having that extra work light, is just so that you can get a nice high contrast light on there. I work inside of a light box to do the filming stuff. That's why I say welcome back inside the box, because I'm working inside of a box. And in case you ever wondered why I say that at the beginning of each video. But the result of that is that the lighting is very sort of all over, and you need a more directional light to really see the imperfections there. It's if I just do it without that, it kind of looks okay, but then as soon as you put the light on there, you can really see what needs to be done. So depending on your lighting setup, you might consider something like that. They're not expensive to pick up. So I'm going to be using my black super glue for these repairs so that I can see where I filled. So I don't want to get too much glue on there, because then I just have to sand it off again. So I'm going to use a toothpick to try and control the application a little bit more. Just get it right where I need it. And like I was saying before, how picky you want to be at this stage is totally up to you. I have long since reconciled myself with the fact that these kind of reshaping parts are never going to be, factory perfect. Just using my Instaset kicker here to get the super glue setting. And when it comes to this step, you want to have a really light touch, because you don't want to damage the part to the point of having to repair it again. You don't want to put a lot of scratches in it. But that's basically the process there. I will paint all these gray again just to make sure that the surface is looking good, that I got what I wanted to get out of that. But I guess what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish all the rest of these painted parts and go through all of the parts remaining on my bench, make sure that all the parts are ready for painting. So cue the time lapse. Okay, I've gone through all the parts and made sure that I'm happy with how they're looking, and I've repainted the other parts that I had sanded gray again, and just to double check that everything's looking good, and I'm happy with that. So we got through that. It was a bit of a slog, but managed to do everything, and really happy that I did do that process. And that means these parts are ready to paint. Thank you very much for watching. That is the end of this week's episode. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like on the way out, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.